afternoon, everybody. Right, Mr. Gale.
Thank you, my lord. The next witness is Micheleine Kane. Her witness statement, the reference is SCIWT 0069 and then 5 zeros 1.
Now, good afternoon. Please come in, make yourself as comfortable as you can, and Mr. Gale will ask you some questions. Yes, Mr. Gale.
Thank you, my lord. Hello, Miss Kane. How are you?
I'm okay.
Okay. Right. Your full name is Micheleine Kane.
Yes.
And your details are known to the inquiry, including your contact details. You provided the inquiry with a statement, and I've given the reference to that. And the evidence that you're going to give today will be under reference to that statement. And all of that, all of the evidence that you give today will be recorded and will inform the inquiry as we make our reports and recommendations. Can I remind you that there is a general restriction order in relation to certain things, and in particular into naming people, including the person about whom you're going to speak, which is your mother. So please don't name anybody, or try not to name anybody, including anybody who worked in the care home where your mother was located. Now, as I've indicated, you're here to talk about your mother.
Yeah.
And she died, sadly, in a care home on the 13th of May 2020. And she was 73 when she died. Yeah. Now, you tell us a little bit about her in your statement, and your statement will appear on the screen in front of you of the various paragraphs that I would make reference to. I think we know from paragraph 3 that she was one of 10 children from a large family. They all remained close. You'd say that your mum was straight as a die, told you exactly what she thought, didn't sugarcoat anything for anybody. She and your father had a great work ethic. She was very organized. She always had the money available for the rent man, etc. And like you say that she loved her bingo and lived for cigarettes and coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I think the cigarette room became a feature as we're going on. So we'll talk about that in a little. She was also sadly a young widow.
Yeah.
And I think you said that she found the death of your father. She took that very badly.
Yeah. And
I think you say that in paragraph 3 that I think a part of her died when he died. She was also diagnosed very early with multiple sclerosis.
Yeah, when she had my brother.
Yeah. She worked, however, all her life, but as you say, she started to fail physically when she got to about 60, although she didn't fail mentally.
No, she never failed mentally at all.
No, okay. And she moved into sheltered accommodation, I think, is that right? But after a while, when she was in sheltered accommodation, she started to withdraw into herself and kept herself in her own room.
She had a house. It wasn't a room, it was a house.
Yeah. But she started to keep herself within in that house. And I think you mentioned in paragraph 7 that there was a concern that she was becoming depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was.
And you also say at paragraph 7 that you made the decision for her to go into a care home.
Yeah, she was depressed and we were concerned about her health. Before then, I had to take her to hospital.
Yes.
And they told me that she was in such a bad condition that another couple of days and she might not have been there. So it was a big concern.
Yeah, yeah. And you say that this is a decision that you've had to live with.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah. Now, she, as you said, there was a spell in hospital. What was that for?
Sorry?
She had a spell in hospital. What
Yeah,
was
she
that
was
for?
depressed. She didn't want to go back to the sheltered housing.
Right, okay.
And her health was failing. She was sitting up all night. Her legs were swollen. I think basically Mum was lonely in the sheltered housing. Yeah. Everybody had their own lives, and I think she started to feel, and she stopped going to the bingo, so she stopped socialising and withdrew into herself.
Okay, okay. And you tell us that after working with social work, your mother moved into a care home in, I think it's 2016.
Yeah.
Just moved. And what you do tell us is that, and this is at paragraph 8, that when she moved there, she did settle and adjusted quite quickly.
She was in one first, it was a council one.
Yes.
And I'm not saying she liked it, but she adjusted quite quickly, and she was a bit more herself, a lot better than she was in the sheltered housing.
Yeah. But unfortunately, that care home closed. And you had to find a change. And as I understand it, she told you to choose one for her. Is that right?
Where she could smoke.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, that really one of the factors in that choice was the availability of a smoking room. Yeah. I think she had previously indicated that she wasn't too enamoured of the idea of having to go outside into the garden for a cigarette.
Didn't matter.
No. Okay. As time progressed, as I understand it, there was a change of ownership of the care home in which she'd moved. And you personally became concerned about the standard of care in that care home. And you say, paragraph 17, that had you known of the way in which the care deteriorated, you would never have put her there.
No, I wanted her to leave then.
Yeah.
I tried to get her to leave.
Yeah. And I think you indicated paragraph 18 of your statement that your mother did have full capacity.
Till she.
And I think she obviously had something of a way with words.
Yeah,
she said something about what she might like to do if, as you put it, she lost her mind.
If she lost her mind, didn't know what was happening, she wanted to go to Switzerland.
Yeah, yeah. And that was for, as I think you've given us the quote, to have the eternal sleep drink. Yeah. So she certainly knew her own mind.
My mum didn't want to not remember anything. My mum knew everything that was going on. She was absolutely sharp as a tack. So I think she didn't want to have no memory of things and no memory of people. And she was in a home that she's seen it happening to people. She knew that they didn't know, and she didn't want to be that person.
Okay. Now, the home that she was in is called Cumbray Care Home, is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And you say at paragraph 19 of your statement, paragraph 20 of your statement, that there were hardly any activities for the residents within the care home. You mentioned dancing, perhaps once a week. And you say that your mum started to become depressed again and affected by the same sense of isolation which she'd experienced in the sheltered housing.
She was better than it was in the sheltered housing, and as I said, I asked her to move out of there, but as you say, the smoking room became a big factor in why Mum literally lived in the smoking room and then went to bed. That was Mum's day, and then in between that, the visits. But she always had people around her to talk to, and she preferred the staff at night time, when she always did.
Yeah, and I think you had a difficult relationship with one of the nurses who, it's not her actual name, at least I hope it's not her actual name, I think you called her Nurse Cratchit.
No, Ratchet.
Ratchet,
The one,
yeah.
I didn't know who she was. His man, he's called her it, my mum.
Yeah, I think she's the character from a film called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Right, well, that's really cool.
I think that's who it is, yeah. And as you're quite right, it is Ratchet rather than...
That's what they used to call her, yeah. My mum's sister, who referred to quite a lot.
And as we approach the end of 2019, you were of the view, I think, that you wanted your mother out of that home.
Yeah.
And was that with a view to her coming back to live with you? Or to go somewhere else?
There was other... That wouldn't have been our ideal choice, the one Mum was in. The other one was nearer where our sisters and everything were. And it was where, more or less, the sheltered housing was, where our preferred bit was. And it was a better place. And she would have known people in that building. And that, because a lot of them were from there as she grew up.
Yeah. But it wasn't possible to make any of those arrangements.
No, because she had to go outside to smoke, and she did. What she said was, I'm too tired to be bothered moving. Okay. I wanted to move, and I had asked. I had started the ball rolling to move her.
Yeah. However, obviously we're looking at now the time of the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. But prior to that, you had reasonably good access to the home and to your mother. You could go pretty much when you wanted, as I understand it.
What do you mean, before the pandemic?
Before the pandemic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I went most Tuesdays, and then I took my grandkids every Sunday. Yeah. And she's seen her sisters, and she's seen my nephew and my niece and that. And she's seen... They were quite near her. I was the furthest away, but I wanted her to be near her sisters and her family, because they were all getting older, and her brother came and her sisters, so she was at the best part for Mum. It wasn't about me, it was about my mum, so she was at the best part for her.
Now, the home she was in, as I understand it, locked down early.
Yeah.
Is that right? And when it did lock down, you did ask whether or not you could see your mum, but you were told that you couldn't. And I think you referred to this at paragraph 29. And what was it that you were told by the home
we didn't even get told the home had locked down. My nephew went to see my mum. As I said, I went on a Tuesday, and he went before me, and he messaged me and says, "Can been locked down and we can only see her at the window?" And when I phoned, they said, "We've sent you a letter." And I said, "What do you mean you've sent me a letter?" why did you no phone me to tell me you were locking the home down so as I could see my mum? So I never got to see my mum. And I says, when can I come and see my mum? And they says, it's government rules just now that nobody can get in or out just now, while obviously the pandemic was kicking off. And they knew more than we knew, because just 2 weeks previous to it, they'd asked me about a DNR. And I never thought anything of it, because I didn't know that's what this was going on.
Well, we'll come to the DNR in a moment. I want to look at the initial communications about lockdown.
Yeah.
You use a phrase in paragraph 29 of your statement that you were told that they weren't letting anybody in and they weren't letting anybody out.
That's what they said.
Is that what they said?
Because I wanted to take her out. I said I wanted to take her out.
And when you say you wanted to take her out, was that with the intention of taking her out on a full-time basis, or just on a visit? And you also say that the information you were given, this again is towards the bottom of paragraph 29, that it had been done under orders.
Aye, they said that they were acting under government orders, that nobody could go in and nobody could leave, that they were locked down. And she said that they'd locked down quicker than other people had locked down. I don't know whether it was truth in that or no, but they'd locked down anyway. And
you did receive a letter, but that was after
the fact of lockdown. Already knew by my nephew.
You say at paragraph 31 that your mum hated lockdown. Can you explain why that and how she manifested that to you? How did you understand that from her? Mum
lived for people visiting her and talking to her and family. We were there all the time. And Mum would have been in there on her own with none of us. And other people that were in there that didn't have capacity wouldn't have known, but Mum would have known for the very day that there was nobody coming to see her. No daughter, no sisters, no family, no niece, no nephew. My nephew was there quite a lot, odd days. So they'd play cards and stuff. Mum went from week to week waiting on the visits. The visits were the most important thing to my mum, which meant she didn't have the kind of thoughts that she had when she was alone in the sheltered housing, because the people were around her, and that was the whole point of Mum going in the home, was so that there was people there. So that I wasn't going and finding my mum dead behind the door. Mum was really no well when we put her into the hospital, because she just had stopped. She just stopped, but when she went into the home, she was better. She was better.
Was that Thank you, my lord. Right, Ms. Kane. Paragraph 32 of your statement, you refer to the concept of designated visitor. This is, as I understand it, something that you were never asked about or told about.
No.
Okay. And I think you indicate that you didn't really get very much feedback from the home about your mum or what was happening in the home. Now, can I divide that up into two matters? Did you get feedback about your mum's condition or how she was coping?
No, I got told that the doctor had been in to see mum because she had a sore neck.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a moment. But prior to that, did you get regular updates about how your mum was?
No. They just say she was okay, but we never got to speak to her.
Right. Okay. And did you get information about the way in which the home was coping with the pandemic?
No.
Okay. You do say at paragraph 38 of your statement is that you say, it seemed like every time I phoned the home asking after my mum and wanting to know what was going on, the home were evasive, saying they would contact me when they had any developments. What did you understand about that?
No, I says to her, I says, what did you mean by a development? She says, well, if anything's going to change, because obviously I was like to see my mum.
Yes.
And I kept saying, well, when can I speak to my mum? When can I see my mum? Am I going to get to see my mum? Is anyone going to get to see my mum? I thought maybe one person would be, as I said, designated. Somebody would get in. And she says, well, we're just waiting on Scottish Government. We're following Scottish Government's guidelines.
Okay. One other thing in relation to your mum's treatment and care, paragraph 35 of your statement, you mention that there was a change of GP.
Yeah.
Again, please don't mention the name of the of the doctor, but your mum's doctor was changed.
Yeah.
You had a power of attorney in relation to your mum.
Yes, for her health and financial.
Yeah.
Both.
And you weren't asked about the change of doctor, I take it?
No.
Right, now you do mention, and you in fact just mentioned it a moment ago, that as you put it in paragraph 40, about a week after the start of lockdown, so we're probably talking about the towards the end of March 2020, you were told that your mum had a sore neck.
Yeah.
Was there any further information given to you about that?
Just that mum had a sore neck and they were getting the doctor in.
Was it, when you say a sore neck, was it a sore throat? Or was it?
The sore throat came after that.
Right.
It started with the sore neck.
Mm-hmm. And your reaction to that was anger, I think. And that because it was the first time you'd been given any information about your
my mum, yeah.
You subsequently wanted to have direct contact with your mum.
Yeah.
And I think through another member of the family, an iPad was supplied
My
for
son
her.
took the iPad and my mum.
And we'll come to issues about the iPad in a moment, but you did have a video call with your mum on using the iPad, I think, is that right? Yeah. And you tell us about that in paragraphs 43 and 44. Well, can you tell us, in your own words, what impression you gained when you were able to see your mum on the iPad?
Well, they said that she had the sore neck, and when they put her on the iPad, I said, I want to see my mum. And they put her on, she put the iPad on, and the carer was sitting, and she had a cup of coffee in her hand. My mum was out drinking coffee, and my mum was taking a drink. And I said to my mum, can you taste that, Mum? Mm-hmm. And she was like, I'm okay, Hen, but she looked, I'm saying she looked tired, because it was how she looked there at the time. And she didn't look right. And I says to her, Mum, can you taste that? Can you smell that? And she's like, oh, Hen. And then the carer was sitting next to her, and she had no PPE on. I could see her tattoos and everything. You could see it in the video. And she's like, okay, Mum's okay. She's just weak. She's not feeling very well. She's tired. She's not feeling too good. But I knew, and I just looked at her, and I was like, Mum. And I kept saying to her, Mum, can you taste that? Because by then it had been on the TV and everything about smell and the taste. And she was so pale. And and I mean, you're talking about it was only a matter of like maybe 2 weeks since I'd seen my mum. So even in that short time, she looked really, I mean, I was crying because I was trying to get her to answer me about whether she could smell it or taste it. But she was kind of just like brushing me off. And then, as I said, the carer was sitting next to her, and she was saying, oh, she's just a wee bit tired, she's okay in that. But I mean, she had absolutely no gloves on, no anything on. Could see the tattoos on her arm and everything else. And I was just thinking, what's going on in here? And then she was like, I think she wants to go. She's getting a wee bit tired now. And obviously I was still quite in shock at what I seen. And within the space of the last time I saw it at that time.
I appreciate that. Were you concerned at the time about the possibility that your mum might have the virus?
No. Nope.
Did you ask whether or not there had been any cases of the virus within the care home?
I asked them when I phoned, and I says to her, has there been have you got COVID? She went, no. I said, so my mum can't have COVID then, was my exact words to her. She went, no. I said, so there's no COVID in your home? Because when I seen my mum, I was like, no. She was, there's something wrong with my mum. She wasn't even, my mum would be chatty. She'd be asking me how things were, how the kids were, how general life was. And she would be telling me not to worry. She'd be saying she was okay, and she wasn't saying anything. She was just looked as if, she looked to me as if somebody had drugged her, to be honest with you. As if she was very subdued. That's the word I'm looking for, very subdued.
Now, you talk about calling the home and trying to ascertain whether or not there was COVID in the home. You tell us about that in paragraph 46.
Yeah.
But then you say in 47 that it was after this call with my mum that all of a sudden all communication broke down.
Yeah.
Can you, just a little more information about that?
For 2 weeks, 2 full weeks, we couldn't get to speak to Mum on the phone. Our sisters couldn't get to speak to her. All of a sudden they were telling people that when they phoned the care home that they would have to go through me and ask me if they could speak to Mum, which never ever happened before. They all used to speak, our sisters, my aunties who went to visit us were concerned. We were on the phone. She's like, we can't get to speak to her. Then if you spoke to her, and I hadn't spoke to her, I says, well, I've got the iPad in. So I says, right, I'm going to speak to a member of the staff who was the manager at that time. I said, I'm going to phone her and I'm going to ask what's going on here. I might speak to my mum. So we went on the phone. They were getting told the same as me, oh, she's awful tired, she's not feeling great and all that. And I kept saying to them, is there COVID in this home? You need to tell me. And I was getting really annoyed with them. And I says, right, well, Mum's got an iPad there. I said, I want to speak to my mum. One is wants to speak to Mum, and they're like, So that's when she says, so I had a full-blown conversation with the manager in which she tried to say to me it was something to do with the internet and getting internet. So I was really upset, and my son came in and he says, what's wrong? I says, I can't get to speak to Mum. They're telling me it's the internet, and they're saying that they're going to try and sort something out with the internet, and I knew something was wrong. And he says to me, Mum, what are you talking about? It's got a SIM card in it, and I didn't think about that at the time because it was my son's iPad. And he says, Mum, it's got a SIM card in it. Tell them you want to speak to my gran. She doesn't need Wi-Fi because he had a contract. And I never thought about that. I was just so upset and I wanted to just speak to my mum. And I says, so I phoned them back and I says, Mum's got a SIM card in her iPad, so put my mum on this. I want to speak to my mum. I says, Mum can get internet at any time. Mum's got a SIM card in that iPad. And then she went, I heard the carer in the background going, oh, that's right. I was supposed to tell her a couple of days ago the charger's not working. No, I just thought, no way.
No, you tell us all that in paragraphs 51 through to 54 of your statement. But can I go back just a little?
Yeah.
You, I think, decided that it might be more advantageous if you spoke to the night shift staff rather than the day staff. Again, please don't name them. But you spoke to a nurse who was on night shift, and I think you got a bit more information from her.
Always did, right through the whole thing.
And I think what she told you around about that time was that your mum wasn't eating because she was too tired and they were trying to get fluids into her. I think we'll find this at paragraph 48 of your statement. And you were obviously very worried when you heard that. And this was when you then tried to insist on the use of the iPad and were eventually told that the charger was broken. I think you then arranged for your nephew to take another charger to the home immediately, so that you were able to see your mum. And you tell us in paragraph 56 of succeeding in being able to see her and what you saw, and you say that she looked like a corpse. She looked absolutely terrible, pure white, her hair all matted into the back of her head. That would have been obviously very upsetting for you to see that. And you had a conversation with your mum at that time, and I think we can read about what she was saying to you. Essentially, she was saying that she was very tired.
Just kept saying she was tired. And I was asking her to go to hospital, and she was saying she was too tired. And I said to her, Mum, please, you need to go to hospital. And she says, I'm tired, Hen. And I says, listen, you need to listen and you need to speak to me, Mum. I need you to go to the hospital. I need you to there. And she was really just dead incoherent. She just wasn't her. And she was just so white and so... She didn't even look like my mum. She was just like a forwarded-on version of the first time I seen her, and that was bad enough shot. But and this was just only another wee space, a couple of weeks, and she looked so much worse. And she was just lying there. She wasn't even moving. She was just lying back, and they were having to move the iPad. And I was kind of half of the time looking at the ceiling when you're trying to move because she couldn't sit up. Like she was just lying in the bed, and I took a screenshot because I thought, no, there's something seriously wrong. She's more than just no well. She's more than just no well. But she didn't even have, and remember, my mum had capacity. So my mum was able to speak for herself. She was a woman that could cut you with her tongue. So my mum, who I've known all my life, was just lying there, saying nothing except, I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired.
And I think this prompted you to ask again whether they had COVID. And you asked that. What was the response to that?
Still no. Yeah. Still a flat out no.
But at paragraph 64, and again, please don't name the doctor, but you asked the doctor, your mother's GP, I think, whether she had COVID, and what was his response to that?
Oh, what happened was they told me that the doctor was coming in to see Mum. And I says, I want the doctor to phone me. You tell him he's to phone me as soon as he's been to see my mum. I want a doctor in to see my mum, and I want to speak to the doctor. And so the doctor came on the phone, and I was like, right, what's happening with my mum? And then I couldn't even believe how I'd went for this sore neck to all of a sudden he says, oh, you maybe have to prepare for the worst. And I was like, what do you mean you need to prepare for the worst? They've told me they've not got COVID in. What's wrong with my mum? And he says, well, I suspect it could be COVID. And I says, how can you suspect it could be COVID if the home hasn't got COVID? You know, I had been asking them, have you got COVID, have you got COVID? No. And I says, well, how? I went, no, I says, how can you say that my mum got COVID if there's no COVID in the home? How can she possibly have COVID? He's a lockdown. How could she have it? And he's like, well, obviously because she hadn't been tested yet, it was like, well, his answer to that was, well, I've seen a few others. And your mum's similar. So I think you need to prepare. He never said she had COVID. And then I came back to him again. I says, but how can my mum have COVID if nobody in the hospital's got COVID? And that's when he turned around and said, well, a staff member had it. And then I just wanted to scream. I really just wanted to scream.
I think you also said that to the doctor that you wanted your mother taken to hospital. Yeah, I wanted her taken to hospital, right. And they said they would go away and speak to her. And I says, I want my mum out of there. And then he says, no, what he said was, they don't get to leave the care home in a sense. He said it in a kind of roundabout way, with different words and things, but basically what he was saying in essence was they weren't letting them out. They weren't getting allowed into hospitals, especially if they had suspected COVID. And I says to him, I want my mum out of there. I says, so you better go and speak to my mum. Because what he said was, I says, I want my mum out. And he says, well, your mum needs to decide that because she's got capacity. And I says to him, no, but I've got power of attorney over my mum. And I want my mum out now. I want you to send my mum to hospital. And so he went off the phone to go and speak. I says, you need to go and speak to my mum and tell my mum I want her to go to hospital right now. I want my mum out of there. I want her in the hospital. And I want her out now. And he says to me, right, he says, I'll go and speak to your mum. I says, no, I want to speak to my mum. I want to hear it from my mum. I want to speak to mum. And then I had to go and phone my brother. And I had to tell him what he just told me on the phone. You did subsequently see your mother again, I think on the iPad. And as you tell us, that she looked even worse the next time you saw her, and that was a couple of days later. And your mum was able to say to you, because you were upset and you were talking about getting her into hospital, and I think your mum was able to say to you her view about going to hospital.
She's, I'm scared.
Yeah. And did she, well, at paragraph 72, you tell us that she had said that the doctor had told her that she wouldn't make it.
She says to me, the doctor says I won't make it, hen, that they'll leave me in the ambulance, and then I'll have to get into triage if I even make the ambulance journey.
Mm-hmm. And what did you feel? What did you feel about that?
Pain, anger, scared, most of all frightened, because I knew that then that was just. I knew then what I knew, and when I seen her, and she was just so resigned, and that wasn't my mum. My mum would have said to him, get me effing out of here now.
Yeah. I think you took the view that by making these comments to your mum, as you say in paragraph 73, you thought they were terrorising her.
Aye. He terrorised her. He told her that she would not make it to hospital. See if they wouldn't have said all that to my mum, that she wouldn't make it to the hospital and that she wouldn't survive the ambulance and all that. My mum would have said, right, send me to the hospital. She would have, and she knew how upset I was, and I was crying, and I'm her daughter. And she wouldn't have wanted to see me hurting the way I was, because she could see me crying, and she's saying to me, it's okay. And I'm saying to her, please, Mum, I need you to go to the hospital. And she says, I'm frightened then. Frightened. That was her words, I'm frightened. So that was my mum lying in there. I was helpless and my mum was frightened. And I was on the other end of a screen, I wasn't there. I couldn't comfort her, I couldn't hold her, I couldn't get it, I couldn't do it. I was just absolutely powerless to do anything, except sit there and cry.
Yeah. I think you were aware from having seen on the television the use of what are called CPAP machines
and
for
I asked
COVID.
them to get her one.
And you asked whether or not that could be obtained for your mum.
Yep.
What was the response to that?
They said, your mum, and this was exactly what they said, now, and now bearing in mind, and this is what I could never go over, my mum smoked and drank coffee all day, every day, right? 40 cigarettes a day, absolutely, right? So not only was my mum sick, she was withdrawing for caffeine, nicotine, of a 13-year-old to a 73 all the years, you know, that and her rang me. And all she kept asking them was, could she go and get a cigarette? And they kept telling her no. And I can imagine her keeping saying, I want to go for a fag. But I can hear her in my head saying that. Or even if she couldn't say anything else, she'd be saying, I want to go for a fag. To the smoke room or whatever. And they said to me, your mum's been asking, can she go for a cigarette? And I says, what do you mean? She went, well, we can't take her out of the room. But they didn't tell me why they couldn't take her out of the room. They just said, we can't take her out of the room. So I was like, oh. And then, remember at that time, they told me that, oh, she had a sore throat and she had a sore neck and all this. And obviously after this, I found out why she had the sore throat, but they didn't tell me why she had the sore throat at the time they said she had the sore throat. Never elaborated on the sore throat. They just said, Mum had a sore throat and they were getting the doctor in to see her, but never elaborated on what the sore throat actually, the cause of the sore throat was. I didn't find that out.
We'll come to that just in a moment. I think you say at paragraph 77 that the doctor said that he would speak to the community nurses and see what he could do, but you say that you knew that he was really just humouring you.
He was.
Being nice. and you didn't hear any more
My
about
mum
it?
smoked 40 cigarettes a day, didn't have a cough, and that's what he said to me. Your mum doesn't have a cough, and your mum doesn't have a temperature. And I said to him, well, why is my mum so ill? If my mum, who smokes 40 cigarettes a day, hasn't got a cough, and you know that everybody was saying it's a cough, and I lost a smell, and I lost a taste. So my mum, who smokes 40 cigarettes a day, had no cough and no temperature. Neither of both. So I was like, right, so all these symptoms that they're saying on TV that we're all hearing, why's my mum not got these then?
Excuse me just a moment. Right, so, paragraph 78, I think you indicated that, or you contacted the home on the 10th of May.
That's the wrong date.
It's the wrong date, is it?
Yeah.
Well, whatever date it is, it's around about.
It was the 7th, well, it was the 6th.
6th, okay. That you wanted to go in, but again, you were told no. Is that right?
I was told no, and then I caused a fuss. And I said, I want to see my mum.
And you put it in fairly trenchant terms of, I'm no asking, I'm telling.
Yeah, well, that's what I said.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, I want to see my mum.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier about the cause of your mother's sore throat or sore neck. And I think you were able to see your mum.
Me and my brother.
And you were able to see you talk about this in paragraph 83, and you again observed that she was in a worse state than she was the time that you'd seen her before.
We got in, what do you mean when we get in to see mum?
Yeah.
When we actually get into home. I caused a big fuss and I said, I want to see my mum and I'm going to come and stand outside and shout up. And I was quite prepared to do that. I said, I need to see my mum. You're telling me to prepare for the worst. I want to see my mother myself, and I want to speak to my mum, and I want to see my mum. So they went away and spoke to whoever it was, and they said, right, I says, and my brother, I says, we want me, because we're our only two kids, I said, I want to see my mum. Both of us want to see my mum. So they said, right, you can come in and see mum, but you'll have to go through all the this COVID stuff. Bear in mind, my mum still hadn't actually been diagnosed with COVID at this time. Was still suspected. And I phoned my brother and I said, right, we can go in and see mum. So, because I've got blood cancer, I was high risk, I was shielding. And obviously my doctor wasn't very much impressed with the fact that with blood cancer and being on the shielding list, I was going to go quite prepared to go and see mum. So we took the precautions, extra set of clothing on and everything we did, because that was my mum. I wanted to see my mum. I wasn't caring about blood cancer or anything else. I wanted to see my mum. I wasn't caring. We wanted to see my mum, and we wanted to see what was happening there. Because I couldn't sleep and I couldn't do anything, and I was lying with the phone next to me. I was frightened and I wanted to see my mum. It's a human instinct to want to see your mum, especially when she needed me. And I wanted to see her. So they said, right, you can go in. So we got to the door and the staff member was waiting at the door, and she says, you don't need to put this on, a gown, and she actually had the absolute cheek to say, because I don't want COVID in my corridor. And I thought, oh my God, man. So I never said anything. And we went up the stair, and mum was lying in the bed. She knew it was us. And because of my blood cancer, I sat kind of as far away as you are from there, but my brother went and sat next to Mum. And we were sitting, and the carer came in, and she had a cup of coffee with a straw and a yoghurt. And you could see the steam coming off the coffee. You could literally see the steam. And she sat the coffee down. Mum was lying in bed. She sat it down on the wee table. And then she opened the yoghurt. She plopped it down. And she turned around and she says to us, "I'll be back in a minute." And she walked out the door. And we're sitting. Mum couldn't even lift her head. She knew we were there. She knew we were talking to us. She was just kind of... I was saying to her, "Mum, go and speak to you." She went, "No, you speak to me." But she couldn't even lift her head. So she's lying, can't lift her head. There's this steaming hot cup of coffee, and then there's this yoghurt opened, just plonked down, and she's just lying there. And me and my brother sitting looking at each other going, "What's this? That's actually happening?" So in she goes back in again after about 10 minutes, and I says to her, I says, "What did you leave that there for?" I says, "Was my mum supposed to get up and get that herself?" I went, "My mum can't move." She went, "Oh no," she says, "I was letting it cool. We burnt her." And I went, "What?" And she went, "Oh, we burnt her with soup." That's what happened to her throat.
You tell us about that incident in paragraphs 84 to 86, and the being informed by the carer that your mum's throat had been burnt with soup on an earlier occasion. Was that the occasion
they get the doctor out for a sore throat,
yeah.
But they didn't elaborate on the sore throat to us. Didn't tell me Mum had burnt her. They just said Mum had a sore throat, and I thought, like everybody else, it must be a COVID symptom. With a sore neck, sore throat. I never for a minute thought that somebody burnt Mum.
Yeah. You also mention I suppose a subsequent incident, or possibly at the same time an incident, where you were informed about the delivery of pizzas to the home.
So I started crying. I was in the room. My brother was sitting with Mum. He was trying to feed her the yoghurt. And I said to Minnie, "Get out of here." I says, I can't sit here. They burnt her. She's lying there. She can't talk to us. She can't move. I mean, I can't sit here while they're standing outside that door. They've done this to my mum. I need to leave. I was so hurt. And I was so angry, and I was scared that I would actually ruin everything by losing my temper. But that was my mum lying there. And this is the first time I'd seen her since before the pandemic, when I saw her. She was all smiling and laughing and saying, "I'll see you again Tuesday hen." Was that conversation before that day. And this was this frail woman who couldn't even lift her head, who couldn't even move, who they'd been telling me they were having difficulty getting her to eat and drink. Well, no wonder. They burnt her. Which she was relying on them for care. She was relying on them to look after her, and they burnt her. They burnt my mum. My mum would never eat anything again after them doing that. She wouldn't have. My mum would not have, because that's the kind of person my mum was. She wouldn't eat in there at the best of times. She ate sweets and crisps and juice. She had a fridge full of rubbish because she wouldn't eat their meals because she didn't know who was touching it. Right? So see if they burnt her, my mum would have refused point blank to let them near her, and so would anybody in their normal frame of mind. My mum had capacity. My mum knew what was going on in that building at all times, all the time. She knew everything, more than what they wanted them to know. But I went outside.
I just want to ask you, Ms. Kane, if I may, just about the pizza delivery that you do make reference to.
So I went outside.
This was something that you were shown, I think, on your son's phone, a picture of pizzas being delivered.
When I left, so I went down the stair after she'd said to me about the COVID. I came out the room and they were standing and they had a wee table like that, just like this, with a sanitizer and bits and bobs on it. And I came out and I left my brother there. I says, I can't sit here. I can't sit here with him outside that door. I need to leave. I need to leave. And I says, I'm sorry, Mum, but I need to go because I cannot sit here and watch this. And I said to my brother, can we not just pick her up and go? Can you not just lift her? He went, we can't. And I went, please. I went, because how can we not just take her away? It was the fact I was going to have to leave and leave her there still. Even finding out that they'd just burnt her, I just thought, I'm leaving you here with them. I'm leaving you here with them. And down the stairs, my son was waiting. I tried to take off all my layers of clothing and everything, and he was spraying me with rubbing alcohol and everything. And he's like, are you all right, Mum? I was in tears. I went, no. And he went, well, you're not going to like what I'm going to tell you now. And I was like, what is it? He went, you've just let a pizza delivery guy just walk right through the doors. And I was like, what? And I've just literally let a guy walk right into the home off the street with pizzas. I thought, you need to take me home. I went, because I can't take it anymore. So the nurse phoned me down and she says, your brother can't be in here on his own because you're not here. You just have to come in together and you just have to leave together, so you'll have to leave. So obviously my brother was upset because he had to leave Mum. And then I was like, we were talking outside, and obviously my brother's like, aye, the pizza guy went into the home. I was like, what's happening here? What's happening? What's going on? And then I got in the car, my brother got in, went away. And then I cried all the way home. And my boy's like, I shouldn't have told you that. I said, no, but you need to tell me these things. So as soon as I get in, I phoned the home and I phoned the manager. And I says to her, you want to tell me why I get spoken to like we don't want COVID in our hall, and yet you let a pizza delivery driver walk right through the front doors? Right through? I went, don't deny it. I says, because my son's got it. I says, my son witnessed it. I went, so don't deny it. And she went, sometimes they bring in the food for they were helping the carers, which I see the point, but not walking right through the doors when they've been outside, when we get literally held to be put PPE on and everything inside the doors before we even entered. It's like, there's a door like this, and then you go through to get into the home. It's like a reception. Well, we had to stand in the reception, put PPE on, yet he walked right through reception and right into wherever the staff sit up the other end of the corridor usually. And I thought, is somebody actually playing a joke on me here? Is this actually what's going on in my life? I've just sat and took that off them, told they burnt my mum, and they let a pizza delivery guy just walk right through the door as if that was okay, and it wasn't okay. And it was absolutely breaking my heart. And I says to her, I'm reporting you. I says, I'm reporting you. She went, I says, I don't care. I says, I'm reporting you. I says, and see tomorrow, I want to speak to the doctor because I want my brother, because he was the nearest. I was too far away. As I said, they're all in the north of the city, and I was about the other end, outside of Glasgow. And I'm like, no. I says, I want my brother in, and I want him to be able to feed Mum. So we'd asked, could my brother come in to make sure Mum was getting fed, because she was just lying there. And as I said, what we'd just witnessed with the coffee and the yoghurt and everything else. And then they were like, oh, we'll have to ask, we'll have to see about it, there's protocol and all this. And I went, well, I don't care. I says, get them to find out. And that was on the 7th of May. I says, get them, speak to them and tell them that I want my brother in here to feed my mum. We want somebody in here to make sure Mum's okay. I'll try and feed her at least. And they were like, oh, well, it'll take a couple of days to speak to people and everything. So bearing in mind this was the 7th of May.
Okay, can I take you on, and I'm sorry, Mr. Kane, rather directly to your mother's passing. You tell us at paragraph 118 that you spoke with her GP again. You've mentioned the possibility of CPAP machines, and you mentioned, as you've said, your mother's intake of fags and her cough. And you said something to the doctor, which you quote at the end of paragraph 118 of the statement. Perhaps you just say what you said.
Yeah. Aye, that's what I says to him. I says, my mum's no dying of COVID. My mum's dying of starvation and dehydration. And you just had to look at my mum to see that. Her eyes were sunk right into the back of her head. I mean, if my mum's no eating and no drinking, and my mum was slight, my mum was underweight, she wasn't heavy or anything, she couldn't afford to lose weight. Absolutely couldn't afford to lose weight. And I says, she's no eating, she's no drinking. So my mum's no dying with COVID, she's not got a cough, she's not got a temperature, she's dying with dehydration and starvation in here, in front of you, in front of all your eyes.
Now,
and we've seen it.
You also say in paragraph 120 that you were informed by the home that your mum was deteriorating on the 13th of May. They got in touch with you to tell you that she was really unwell.
They phoned me and they says, you'll have to come up because your mum's deteriorating.
And I think you made various arrangements that members of your family could come and see your mum. Yeah. And you then say that you were driving together with your son. This is paragraph 122. You're driving with your son 5 minutes from the home at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And your phone rang. It was the home, and they told you that your mum had passed away. And obviously, it's a matter of great sadness and sorrow for you that your mum died on her own.
It was 5 minutes, and I knew when the phone went, they were going to say that was my mummy. And my brother was outside, and when they let him go in, we had to go in together, because you had to go in together and look their policy, people not going in and out. We had to go in together, and he would have been there. He would have been in there, but he was waiting on me. He was already there. So she died on her own. The one thing we never, ever wanted for her. The whole point of her being in the care home was so that she didn't die on her own, so that I didn't go and find her dead. And when nobody found her dead, so that we would be there, always be there. And the one only thing I wanted to do was be with my mum, and we were robbed of that as well. And she died on her own.
You also, I think, noticed that your mum was wearing clothes when she died, which you seemed obviously to think was unusual.
Absolutely, my mum wore her jammies all the time. She wouldn't let them get her dressed so many times, and she would just sit about in her jammies.
Yeah. And I think you also said that she looked angry.
So,
she looked angry.
Aye, she looked angry. Yeah. She looked angry.
Yeah. You also noticed, as you observe, a needle mark around her thumb.
Right there.
Yeah, pointing to just your thumb. Yeah.
I was holding her hand. She was dead, and I was crying and saying sorry, and I was rubbing her hand. And then I looked and she had the red dot, but it looked really recent. It was still red. You could see the wee bit where the blood clots, the wee red dot.
What did you think about that?
All I kept thinking was they must have given her a jag there somewhere. But at that time, I hadn't come out about my dad. I was always under the impression they were giving my mum morphine, because I'd fought with them not to give my mum stuff, and then they'd get social work involved, and standby social work. You can't get social work for love nor money, but they managed to get them in a bank holiday weekend to call me and say, because I did say it, I said, you give my mum palliative care medicines, I'm getting you charged with murder if anything happens to my mum. So social work department phoned me on the May bank holiday, just before I got to see mum, and they says to me, I says, listen, I've got power of attorney, her mum, power of attorney, that's her help as well. And if I tell you you're not giving my mum just in case, or palliative medicines, you're not giving her it. My mum's on what they were saying, my mum was only on liquid paracetamol. My mum was delirious for weeks before. I never get a coherent conversation out of her, except for the only coherent conversation I got out of her was to tell me she was frightened when she was going to hospital. Every other conversation wasn't any sort of conversation. She was just looked as if she was drugged. She looked as if she'd been drugged.
Did you take this matter any further? Did you complain about what you thought may have happened to your mum?
Aye. They knew I told them what I thought might have happened to my mum.
And
I had asked for a post-mortem.
yes.
And then, but because of COVID and everybody was upset, no, rightly so, and the family was all going through a lot of pain, and it was taking long enough to get them buried, as you know. It was taking over a month. And I phoned up and I says, listen, and I spoke to the guy, I says, I want a post-mortem on my mum. Right, and he says to me, right, well, it'll take it, and that means that it'll be longer for the funeral, right? And people were grieving, my aunties were older, and then, if you all remember right, you could only get 10 people at a funeral.
Yeah.
There was, between me and my brother and my kids and his kids, that wasn't even counting his my auntie sat in a car park outside the church, where Mum went into outside the crematorium in cars and didn't even get to say a proper goodbye to their own sister. That was another thing my mum never wanted. My mum always wanted to have a send-off. She didn't get a send-off. No. We had to pick between our brothers and sisters who would actually get in to the actual, to get her cremated. It was the most horriblest thing ever. It was a bad enough time, and I didn't want to put anybody else through any more pain. They were all hurting, and they were saying, you can't bring her back, or it doesn't matter, and all these kind of things, because people were grieving. I was grieving and angry. We were all grieving. We all had our different bits. Our sisters were grieving their sister. I was grieving my mum, and I had the guilt, and I had the burden, and all these things. But I wanted to know what had happened to her, because I never ever believed for a minute it was COVID. I didn't. I didn't believe it was COVID. And she still had not been tested. And I phoned them just before that. I says, why is my mum still not had a COVID test? And he says, I've left them with the home. And then I phoned the home. I says, have you got mum's COVID test? Has it come back yet? She went, oh no, there was something wrong with the last one. I mean, it was literally like 3 days before Mum died, or not even that, 48 hours before Mum died, that they actually said that it was confirmed it was COVID. This went on for weeks. Your
mother's death certificate did disclose that the cause of death was COVID, I think.
It said COVID on the top of it, yeah.
Yes. You tell us about the funeral, and I don't think there's... everything you've said so far is really incorporated in paragraph 131. You were, if you look at paragraph 130, you have some concern that some treatment that you had had the same mark. Injection mark in the same location.
Exact same. I couldn't believe it. I had aggressive cancer and I caught COVID eventually, and they had to remove my Hickman line because I had a Hickman line in, and when they took me down to the theatre, and because they had to do it quick because they were putting a lot of antibiotics in me, she said to me, I'm going to give you my Dazalam. And I went, no. She went, yeah, because we can't give you an anaesthetic then, so I'm going to give you my Dazalam just a wee bit so that we can get this out, because I had to take my Hickman line out. And she gave me it there. And it was the exact same mark on my, exact same place it was on my mum, and the exact same mark was left on my finger. And I kept looking at it going, that's the exact same as where Mum because I had always been under the impression, I thought by palliative care medication they thought morphine, and I was thinking, where were they getting all the morphine? I don't know where they were getting it orally, because they didn't actually ever say what they didn't even tell me it was palliative care. They said it was just in case medicine. And when I challenged them on it, and when as you said, when I was angry, and I says to them, just were meant to be putting a ring round these homes to protect them. And she says to me, we're trying to do a ring of protection. This is what we've been meant to do. And I says, no, this is no a ring of protection you put around these homes. This is a burning ring of fire you put around all these homes. And she says to me, you can't say stuff like that. I says, I can, because I'm watching it, and I'm watching it burning, and I'm going to have to carry the scars along with every other relative, the same as me, that's going to have to carry these scars till we burn, because that's what happened. That is what happened in these homes.
Can I just turn finally, Ms. Kane, to the lessons to be learned? And I think at paragraph 132 of your statement, you say that you didn't get any respect as a family. Your mum got no respect.
No.
You as her kids got no respect. And you were treated like a hindrance.
Yeah.
Because you were questioning everything.
Everything.
Yeah. And we can read the rest of that. I think most of it is material you've already told us. And then your hopes for the inquiry at paragraphs 133 through to 136. You mentioned that you're in a COVID bereavement group.
Yeah.
And you're still having the traumatic after effects of what you've been through.
Well, I was diagnosed just there with delayed grief because, as I said, my cancer came back aggressive after Mum died. After lockdown. And I was fighting for my own life, and it's all right for people to say you can get out of it, but when you can't get out of it, when you need an answer, when you need somebody to tell you why you couldn't see your mum, why you couldn't be there when she needed you, why you couldn't comfort her, why you couldn't just get a straight answer even. You couldn't even get a straight answer. It was always caught up in some sort of protocol or some sort of something they couldn't tell you. But it was all just a cover-up, and at the end of this was a family who were just distraught and devastated and in pain. But the worst thing was, as I said, and I've always said it, my mum died on her own, and the whole point of being in that place in the first place was so that wouldn't happen to her.
You also ask that there should be honesty. There should be an acknowledgement that things could have been done better, and also an admission that parents were not treated well. And those are some of the things that you would want the inquiry to take notice of.
We all need honesty, because I'm not the only family going through this, sadly. There's a lot of us. But we all need to hear answers. We need to hear people saying that they made the mistakes, that mistakes were made, because we're living and blaming ourselves. But we weren't allowed that. We weren't allowed to do anything. We weren't allowed to interact. We were deprived, and the people, my mum was deprived of everything. It's natural. A cuddle, a hug, time. She was deprived of all these things. And they're hard for us. It's hard for me every day, because I think, what was she thinking? Because she had capacity. I used to wish my mum didn't have capacity. I did. I used to actually I wish she didn't know what was going on, but she knew all of it right up until she died. She knew every single thing that was going on. She might have been weak, and she might have been whatever, but my mum knew. She knew every bit of thing that was going on about her. She knew we were there. She was trying to talk, but she was just so tired and so weak that she just couldn't.
Well, Mrs. Kane, I think everybody realises that this has been an emotional occasion for you. We're very grateful to you for making the effort and enduring this, and we are very grateful. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, thank you. That's all.
Everybody will know that. Yeah.
Very
Thank
good.
you, my lord. Yes, tomorrow.
10 o'clock tomorrow morning.